The New York Multicultural Festival pulsed with life as David weaved through the crowd, his artist's eye drinking in every detail. Vibrant saris swirled past food stalls wafting with spices, while drums echoed against skyscrapers. His sketchbook remained stubbornly blank despite the sensory feast. 20 rejection letters from galleries sat in his apartment drawer. Too urban, they said. Not commercial enough. Code words he'd learned to translate. Too black, too real, too uncomfortable for their white walls. That's when he spotted her. A young white woman standing frozen amid the flow of bodies, clutching her phone like a lifeline. Lily. Her designer clothes and careful posture screamed Upper East Side, but her eyes held raw panic. David hesitated. He'd seen that look before. White women clutching purses tighter when he passed, security guards following him through stores. Every approach carried risk. Every good intention could become a headline. Still, something in her lost expression pulled him forward. "Excuse me," he called, maintaining careful distance. "Are you all right?" Lily flinched, then forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm fine," she said, but her voice trembled. Her phone was dead, she admitted finally. She'd never been to this part of the city. David recognized the fear beneath her politeness, not just of being lost, but of him. He could walk away, protect himself from another potential rejection. Instead, he pulled out his own phone. "Let me help you get your bearings." They moved through the festival together, an unlikely pair drawing curious glances. David guided Lily to a Vietnamese food stall, explaining the difference between pho and bun bo hue. Her initial tension slowly melted as they shared steaming bowls. "I've never had anything like this," she admitted, wielding chopsticks awkwardly. "Back home, exotic means Olive Garden," David laughed, then shared stories of growing up in Brooklyn, where every block offered a new cuisine, a different language, another world. He described his mother's determination to expose him to art, dragging him to museums where he rarely saw faces like his own on the walls. Lily listened, really listened, her privileged worldview cracking. She confessed her own sheltered upbringing in Connecticut, where diversity meant the one Asian family in their gated community. "I feel so ignorant," she said quietly. "Ignorance isn't the problem," David replied, leading her to a West African drum circle. "It's what you do once you know better." They stopped at his favorite Dominican artist's booth, where paintings exploded with color and history. David explained the symbolism, the stories woven into each brushstroke. Lily saw his eyes light up, recognized the passion that drove his own art. The afternoon flowed, barriers dissolving with each shared experience. David found himself sketching again, inspired by their conversations. Lily's questions, though sometimes awkward, came from genuine curiosity rather than judgment. The mood shifted when Marcus, David's former classmate, spotted them near the main stage. His sneer carried years of privileged contempt. "Still playing artist, David? Or is this some kind of social experiment?" David felt Lily stiffen beside him, saw her eyes widen at Marcus's casual cruelty. The festival's joy dimmed, reality intruding like a storm cloud. "Actually," Lily spoke up, surprising both men, "David's showing me his work. He's incredibly talented." Marcus laughed, the sound sharp with mockery. "Of course you'd think that. Guilty white liberals love pretending street art is legitimate." David's hand tightened on his sketchbook. Years of similar dismissals burned in his throat. Art teachers suggesting he try urban themes, galleries relegating his work to diversity shows. But before he could respond, Lily stepped forward. "What exactly makes art legitimate, Marcus? The artist's zip code? Their skin color? Or just your approval?" Her words drew attention. Festival goers slowed, sensing confrontation. David watched Marcus's facade crack, revealing the insecurity beneath his arrogance. "You don't understand," Marcus sputtered. "He's not trained. He didn't go to proper schools. No," David interrupted quietly. "I couldn't afford proper schools. But I studied every artist I could find. I practiced while working 3 jobs. I'm still practicing, still learning, still creating." The crowd grew, phones recording the confrontation. Marcus, cornered, lashed out with unexpected honesty. "You made me feel inferior." In school, everyone admired your talent. You didn't need fancy tutors or expensive lessons. It just came naturally. David blinked, years of assumed prejudice shifting perspective. You were jealous? You had something I couldn't buy, Marcus admitted, deflating. My father spent thousands on art classes, but I could never create what you did with just a pencil and paper. The revelation hung in the festival air. Lily watched understanding dawn on both men's faces, how assumptions and insecurity had poisoned their past interactions. That's what art is supposed to do, David said finally. Challenge us. Make us feel something. It's not about price tags or galleries. Festival attendees murmured agreement. Some shared their own stories of facing artistic prejudice, of being boxed into cultural expectations. Marcus struggled visibly with his worldview collapsing. I'm sorry, he managed. I've been part of the problem, haven't I? Lily touched David's arm gently. Maybe this is the real art happening right now. People finally seeing each other clearly. The tension dissolved into something new. Possibility. David opened his sketchbook, showing Marcus and the crowd his latest work. Pieces that captured both struggle and hope. As the sun set, festival organizers invited David to display his sketches on the main stage. His work, born from the day's experiences, captured the raw emotion of cultural collision and connection. Lily helped arrange the impromptu exhibition, her earlier fear replaced by fierce advocacy. The crowd grew, drawn by the authenticity radiating from each piece. David's latest sketch showed two figures, one dark, one light, surrounded by swirling festival colors, their differences celebrated rather than erased. Marcus stood silently before it, recognition dawning in his eyes. A gallery owner emerged from the crowd, card extended. This is what we need, she said. Art that starts conversations, that challenges comfortable assumptions. But David hesitated. No more diversity shows, he stated firmly. My work stands on its merit, not my melanin. The gallery owner smiled. Exactly why we want you. Art shouldn't need translation or categorization. It should speak truth. Lily squeezed his hand, pride evident in her expression. Their chance encounter had catalyzed something larger than themselves. Marcus approached again, humbled. Would you consider teaching? He asked. My father's foundation could fund workshops for young artists who can't afford classes. The festival buzzed with energy as barriers continued falling, prejudices transforming into possibilities. 1 year later, David's solo exhibition opened to critical acclaim. His work filled the gallery walls, not segregated to a special section, but celebrated for its universal truth. Lily attended as his guest curator, their friendship having deepened into professional collaboration. She left her corporate job to study art history, focusing on overlooked artists of color. The centerpiece showed the festival scene where everything changed. A moment of confrontation transformed into connection. Marcus stood beside his own contribution, a funded scholarship program for underprivileged artists. David's mother walked through the gallery in tears, seeing her son's vision finally recognized. The Vietnamese food vendor from the festival catered the event, his phone now famous among the art crowd. Young artists from David's workshops displayed their pieces in a dedicated section, their diverse perspectives adding depth to the conversation. The gallery had become a true intersection of cultures. We're just beginning, David told reporters. Art breaks barriers when we let it speak honestly about who we are. Lily nodded, adding, change happens in unexpected moments, when we choose to see past our assumptions. The festival where they met had grown too, becoming a symbol of cultural exchange and artistic freedom. Their story, captured in David's paintings, reminded visitors that transformation starts with a single act of reaching out across the divide.